بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. Brothers and sisters Islam, welcome back. In the previous episode we stopped at the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said there is no other days that among the days of the year that the amal salih are more beloved, the righteous deeds are more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than these days that we are in. Then the Sahaba say, Ya Rasulullah, well, jihad fi sabilillah. What about the jihad? Fighting in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet said, well, jihad fi sabilillah. Even the jihad, you cannot compare even the jihad with the first 10 days of the month of DHUL. Illa, except رجل خرج بنفسه وماله, except the person who left his house, left his home. When he left his house with two items. خرج بنفسه وماله, he came out with his soul. And the second item, he came out with his wealth. We came out with his soul and wealth. And his soul and the wealth, both, he used it on the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He never came back with his soul. His soul, he sold it on the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وماله, and his wealth. Also, he spent it on the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the man that you can compare with the first 10 days of the HIJJAH. It shows the greatest of ibadah in the first 10 days of the HIJJAH. The hadith is showing us, دل الحديث وغيره, this hadith and other hadith, it is teaching us that al-amil, it shows us that دل الحديث أن العامل في هذه العشر, that a person who is doing the righteous deeds in the first 10 days of the HIJJAH. This hadith is showing us a person who does the righteous deeds in the first days of the HIJJAH, أفضل is better than أفضل من المجاهد في سبيل الله الذي رجع بنفسه وماله, is better than a mujahid who went to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he came back with his soul and he came back with his nafs. So these days are important days. This hadith is showing us also these days are important even than a person a mujahid who went to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this mujahid, he came back with his soul, he came back with it, and also his wealth, he came back with it. So these are the days of ibadah. These are days of ibadah. That's why in the beginning of the program, during the introduction, I mentioned that the Salafun as-Salih, our righteous predecessors, they used to honor. They used to honor. When we say Salafun as-Salih, it is generation of the Prophet and the Sahaba. Generation who came after Prophet and the Sahaba. The generation also came back. All of them, they are known as Salafun as-Salih. That's why I quoted, if you remember, in the beginning of the programs, in the beginning of our episodes, that one of the scholars of the Salaf is known as Abu Uthman al-Nahdi. He says, Kanu Salaf. They used to honor 10 days of the year. They used to honor the last 10 days of the month of Ramadan because of Laylatul Qadr. Because the last 10 days of Ramadan are the most important days if you compare the other 10 days. And they used to honor also the first 10 days of the month of the HIJJAH, the topic of discussion, the topic of our episodes. And also they used to honor the first 10 days of the month of Muharram. These are Ashur al-Hurum. These are sacred months. And they used to honor also the first 10 days of the month of Muharram because of the fasting that are found there. The days of fasting of Tasu'a and Ashura, the 9th of Muharram and the 10th of Muharram are the days of fasting. So inshallah ta'ala, in the coming episode, I'm going to mention inshallah the recommended righteous deeds. The recommended righteous deeds that to be done in the first 10 days of the month of the HIJJAH. Subhanakallah wa hamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa jazakumullahu khair.